Liang Hongyu lived through the turbulent final years of the Northern Song Dynasty, particularly after the Jingkang Incident of 1127, when the Jin army captured two emperors and forced the court to flee southward. Amidst that crisis, she emerged as an exemplary female warrior breaking through social barriers. The name Hongyu was given by later generations. Together with her husband Han Shizhong, she made crucial contributions to the defense and revival of the Southern Song Dynasty. In the early years of Liang Hongyu's life, the Northern Song Dynasty was at the height of its economic prosperity. Kaifeng, the capital where her family likely frequented, was one of the largest cities in the world, with a population of over 1 million people. Society during this period was extraordinarily vibrant, with entertainment districts, alleyways, social clubs, night markets, and public festivals, such as the Lantern Festival. This was also an era of remarkable technological advances, including the issuance of the world's first paper currency in the 1120s and the widespread adoption of printing techniques that allowed knowledge to spread. Broadly, the ideological context in which she grew up was shaped by Confucian thought that valued civil officials over military commanders. The Song court maintained an enormous professional army, but lacked the offensive strength of the preceding Tang dynasty. Rather than resorting to force, the court frequently used annual subsidies of silver and silk to neighboring states, such as Liao and Western Jia, to maintain peace. However, under Emperor Gaozong, the extravagance of the court and heavy taxation policies led to internal unrest, most notably the Fang La Rebellion of 1120 through 1121, an event that directly precipitated the tragedy of her family. Although women of the lower classes were generally less restricted than noble women, for instance, they were not required to bind their feet in order to perform farm work or participate in sports, such as martial arts and wrestling. Song society was beginning to witness the spread of increasingly strict Confucian norms regarding women. When she was demoted to the status of a government courtesan, Liang Hongyu had to live within the Jiaofeng system, an institution that managed musical artisans and dancers well organized to serve official ceremonies and banquets of the ruling class. After the false prosperity of the Huizong era, the Jingkang Incident of 1127 delivered a profound cultural and political shock. When the Jin army captured both emperors, the court was forced to flee south of the Yangtze River and establish a new capital at Linan, present-day Hangzhou, marking the beginning of the Southern Song Dynasty. Liang Hongyu was born into a family with a long military tradition in Huai'an, in present-day Jiangsu province. Her father and grandfather were both respected generals responsible for defending the northern frontier against invading tribes. From a young age, instead of learning embroidery or having her feet bound like noble women of the time, she was personally taught combat skills by her father, making her a master of martial arts. She possessed extraordinary physical strength and was especially proficient in archery. Beyond her military capabilities, she also received formal training in the arts and culture. During her time serving in the Jiaofeng necessitated by her family's misfortune, she trained and excelled in fields such as music, singing, dancing, painting, and calligraphy. This combination of sharp military thinking and artistic talent later enabled her to command troops in a unique way, through drum signals and flag signals, foot binding, and the context of the era. Foot binding, written in Chinese as Quanzu, was a traditional practice in China that began to spread during the Song Dynasty. The process typically began when girls were between 4 and 8 years old, using long strips of cloth to tightly wrap the feet, breaking and forcing the toes downward beneath the soles to create a tiny lotus foot shape, ideally around 10 centimeters. Socially bound feet were considered a symbol of feminine beauty, high status, and submissiveness, helping women secure marriages into powerful families. Medically, however, the practice caused extreme pain and led to permanent disability. Her possession of natural feet allowed her physical strength and agile mobility, something entirely impossible for women with bound feet who struggled even to walk or stand steadily. This enabled her to ride horses, charge into battle, and personally lead troops on the battlefield. While bound feet symbolized passivity and confinement within the domestic sphere, her natural feet symbolized an active life in politics and military affairs. Having unbound feet was a prerequisite for her ability to stand on a high platform, beating war drums continuously for dozens of days and nights at the Battle of Huangtian Dang, an act demanding endurance and steadiness that a woman with lotus feet could never have performed. However, the fate of the Luang clan changed abruptly following the Fang Lao Rebellion of 1120 through 1121. This was a large-scale peasant uprising that directly threatened the stability of the Jiangnan region. During the campaign to suppress it, Liang Hongnagok's father and elder brother committed serious military errors, leading to defeat on the battlefield. Her family met with great calamity around 1120 through 1121 when the Fang Lao Rebellion erupted with great force across the Jiangnan region. According to the strict laws of the Song Dynasty at the time, major military failures typically resulted in the death penalty for commanders and severe punishments for their family members. In the classic play Shuang Li Ji, Record of the Twin Martyrs of the Ming Dynasty, and later operatic works, the circumstances of her family are depicted through mournful yet resolute songs. Regarding the death sentence, bodies separated from head by the decree of the sovereign female relatives sent to military camps as singing girls. This line directly depicts the most terrible punishment, the separation of the body beheading, and the complete collapse of social status for the women of the clan. In one scene of the play, she sang, "Fang La being captured should have made me rejoice, but my father and brother also lost their strategic moment because of him." This lyric expresses a profound inner conflict. On one hand, she was a patriot, glad to see the rebel captured. On the other hand, that very capture was the reason her family was destroyed. Historical sources such as the Song History Song Shi and research by Deng Guangming record that after her father and brother were executed, the entire Luang family was reduced to slave caste status. She was forced to refer to herself as Nu Jia, meaning slave girl, and to serve in the Jiaofeng at Jingkou, present-day Zhenjiang, Jiangsu. The consequence of her family's conviction was that Liang Hongyu was compelled to serve in the music registry Jiaofeng as a government courtesan. During her time in the institution, in reality a Jiaofeng for the commoner class, Liang Hongyu was not an ordinary courtesan, but is recorded as a talented Yuan artisan or performing artist, Wan Dian. She was not only skilled in singing and dancing, but also highly accomplished in advanced arts, such as painting, playing musical instruments, calligraphy, and poetry. The educational foundation from her military official family before the calamity gave her a refined bearing and deep learning, entirely different from courtesans who only knew how to provide simple entertainment. Some historical documents suggest that during the period she was demoted to slave status, she may have participated in a troupe of female wrestlers, a performance sport very popular and beloved even by Song emperors. She possessed astonishing physical strength capable of drawing heavy bows that only the strongest soldiers could use. She always maintained the upright bearing of one born into a military household. Some scholars hold the view that because female wrestlers of the era often wore light, compact attire similar to that of men in order to compete later, Ming Dynasty historians considered this unseemly and recorded her as a courtesan to explain her appearances before the public. Poetry and literature not only described the devastation of the day of execution, but also emphasized her reversed destiny. Although her father and brother were put to death by the court, she maintained loyalty to the sovereign and love for her country. The image of her drawing heavy bows and practicing martial arts, even while serving as a courtesan, showed that she never forgot her roots in a general's household. These works construct Liang Hongyu as a symbol of resilience. Rather than harboring resentment toward the court that had killed her loved ones, she employed her military talent to defend that very dynasty when the nation was in peril. These poetic lines frequently appear in author narration sections or storybeat segments in traditional theater to evoke the audience's sympathy before she meets Han Shizhong and begins her journey to restore her family's honor At banquets held for military officers, she regularly observed and listened to strategic discussions. She refused to accept her fate of imprisonment. Through her own efforts and talents, she saved enough money to ransom herself, to free herself from slavery before formally marrying and becoming the inseparable military companion of Han Shizhong. The romance between Liang Hongyu and the renowned general Han Shizhong is considered one of the most romantic and heroic stories in Chinese military history. They first met in 1121, just after Han Shizhong had achieved great merit in suppressing the Feng La rebellion. At the victory banquet, while other officers were reveling in triumph and strong wine, Liang Hongyu noticed a young soldier, Han Shizhong, had not yet attained high rank at that time, standing apart with a sorrowful expression, frequently sighing. With her sharp perception, she approached and asked why he was not celebrating. Han Shizhong replied that victory over domestic rebels was but a minor achievement, while the real threat from the Jurchen people was growing ever greater, and he was worried about the suffering that war would bring to the people. This shared empathy immediately forged a bond between the two. Liang Hongyu recognized in Han Shizhong a soul of great righteousness and a strategic vision far surpassing that of his peers. In turn, Han Shizhong was deeply impressed by this woman's intelligence and bearing. He used his own money to ransom her, and after his first wife, Lady Bai, passed away, Liang Hongyu officially became his wife and his inseparable companion on every battlefield. The year 1129 was an important milestone that confirmed not only Liang Hongyu's loyalty, but also her sharp political acumen. Two generals, Miao and Liu Zhengyan, staged a coup in Hangzhou, forcing Emperor Gaozong to abdicate in favor of a 2-year-old crown prince. When the rebellion broke out, Liang Hongyu and her young son were taken hostage by the rebel forces. Miao, fully aware of Han Shizhong's prestige and military strength, attempted to coerce Liang Hongyu into writing a letter persuading her husband to surrender or join the rebel faction. In this desperate situation, she pretended to accept their demands, even requesting permission to have an audience with the Empress Dowager to persuade her to accept the change of dynasty. After gaining a minimal degree of trust from the coup's ringleaders, Liang Hongyu convinced them that she was the best messenger to carry a conciliatory message to Han Shizhong. The moment she was out of the rebels' control, she rode continuously without rest for a full day and night to reach Han Shizhong's encampment at Shuzhou. She provided her husband with detailed information about the rebels' defensive layout and the location where the emperor was being held. Armed with this invaluable intelligence, Han Shizhong swiftly led his troops back to the capital, crushed the rebellion, and restored the throne to Emperor Gaozong. To honor her great merit, the emperor bestowed upon her the title Madam Nation Protector Huguo Furen. A notable point in Chinese feudal history is that this title was granted to her based on her personal contributions rather than her husband's rank, and she was also the first wife of an official in the entire history of the Song Dynasty to receive a separate salary from the court. The most celebrated military achievement of Liang Hongyu was the Battle of Huangtian Dang in 1130. This was a series of naval battles on the Yangtze River, as Jin forces under the command of the celebrated general Wanyan Zongbi Wuzhu were retreating northward after having pillaged southern cities. The forces of Han Shizhong and Liang Hongyu numbered only around 8,000 soldiers, while the Jin army was reported to have 100,000 or more, along with a large fleet of warships. Perceiving the enormous disparity in numbers, Liang Hongyu proposed an ambush plan based on the complex river terrain of the Huangtian Dang area, a narrow body of water connected to the Yangtze River by a single opening. Liang Hongyu's role in this battle was not merely advisory, but also one of direct command. She erected a war drum platform, either on a warship more than 10 meters high, or atop Jinshan Mountain to observe the entire battlefield. During the day, she used flag signals, and at night she combined lanterns with war drums to direct troop movements. Her drumbeats were not merely for boosting morale, they were a genuine military language. Continuous drumbeats ordered an all-out assault when the enemy fell into the kill zone. double-beat drum beats directed warships to maneuver and lure the enemy into areas of sandbars and reed thickets, where the large Jin vessels would easily become stuck. And rapid drum beats after a successful ambush signaled the forces to launch rockets and fire weapons at the enemy's vessels. Later at her temple in Huai'an, a famous couplet succinctly summarized her celebrated achievements, resolved to inspire heroes what shame in rough cloth. Personally wielding the drumstick, half a nation's rivers and mountains extended the Song dynasty's fortune. This affirms her direct commanding role through the drum beats that helped the Southern Song dynasty survive the pressure of the Jin army. An ancient poem also praising her indomitable spirit atop Jinshan Mountain while facing the Jin army contains the lines, "And now the wind and waves pass by Jinshan, yet still the sound of the lady's drum beats lingers." The meaning of these lines emphasizes that although hundreds of years have passed, the echo of her loyal and righteous drumming still resonates like a living legend across the waterways of Zhenjiang. In later classic operas, such as Liang Hongyu beats the drums to repel the Jin army, the lyrics depicting her image are constructed with extraordinary heroism and cinematic grandeur. Hongyu beats the drums, each beat resonating to the lawn, heavens stirring the entire river. The second drum roll sounds, turning the universe upside down. In the most tense moments, she is described as having cast aside her armor dressed in light garments and stood on the high platform beating the drums ceaselessly. Her drum beats are celebrated as shaking heaven and earth, causing the morale of the Song troops to soar while the Jin forces were struck with terror. When the Song troops were pushed back by the overwhelming numbers of the Jin army, Liang Hongyu threw aside her helmet and personally seized the drumstick, beating the war drums with extraordinary force to encourage the soldiers. The image of the female general standing amidst a hail of arrows and projectiles, the drums thundering to shake the very heavens and earth, became an immortal symbol, lifting the spirit of the Song army while filling the Jin forces with dread. The defeat of the Jin forces also owed much to the technical innovations of the Song side. Han Shizhong deployed tiger ships equipped with fire-spraying devices to burn the enemy's vessels. In addition, the Song army's blacksmiths forged enormous iron hooks attached to chains to drag and capsize the smaller Jin vessels. The siege lasted for 48 days, leaving Wuzhu's forces completely at an impasse. A detail little known but vitally important for understanding Liang Hongyu's character is that she submitted a memorial to the court requesting punishment for her own husband after the Battle of Huangtian Dang. Although she had kept the Jin army pinned for 48 days and inflicted heavy casualties, Wuzhu ultimately escaped because a traitor showed the Jin forces how to dig through an old canal to bypass the Song blockade. Liang Hongyu filed a memorial accusing Han Shizhong of losing the opportunity and allowing the enemy to escape. She demanded that the court impose strict disciplinary measures against her husband in order to uphold military law. This action did not stem from marital discord, but from absolute loyalty to the nation and a commitment to the supremacy of the law. The court and all the troops and people were at that time deeply astonished and moved by her selfless integrity, regarding it as proof of a heroic soul unswayed by personal affection. After the exhausting military campaigns, Han Shizhong was appointed military governor of Wuning and Yinghua garrisoning in Chuzhou and Huai'an. The region had been severely ravaged by war with sparse population and ruined homes. Liang Hongyu joined her husband in the work of rebuilding the city. She was not only involved in planning defenses, but also directly joined soldiers and civilians in constructing homes and cultivating fields. Historical records describe her living a simple life, personally weaving thin mats for her own home, and sharing every hardship and shortage with the soldiers. In 1136, when the Song forces at Huai'an faced a severe food shortage, Liang Hongyu observed war horses eating a wild grass growing locally called pu'er kai. She personally tasted this grass to ensure it was safe, then guided the people and soldiers on how to prepare it as food. This innovation helped the army and the people sustain their fighting strength for many months, until the Jin forces were compelled to withdraw. To honor her wisdom and courage, the people of Huai'an named this vegetable Kongjin Kai anti-Jin vegetable. To this day, this vegetable remains a famous specialty of the Huai'an region, reminding later generations of an arduous yet heroic era under the leadership of the female general. There are two differing accounts of Liang Hongyu's death. Official historical sources, such as the Song History, Song Shi, hold that she died of illness in 1135, just a few months after arriving in Chuzhou. However, in popular tradition, and based on research by some modern historians, such as Deng Guangming, she is said to have died heroically on the battlefield. In the 8th month of 1135, during a patrol or a Jin army ambush, Liang Hongyu led a group of soldiers in fierce fighting. Although gravely wounded in the abdomen to the point where her intestines protruded, she used a silk sash to bind her abdomen tightly and continued fighting on horseback until she collapsed from blood loss. Some accounts suggest that she was surrounded by enemy forces and beheaded, but her body was ultimately recovered by Song troops and brought back for burial. When the sorrowful news of her passing reached the capital, the Song court was filled with grief. The emperor posthumously bestowed upon her the title Yingli Yangguo Furin, heroic and fierce lady who glorifies the nation, and held a state funeral with the highest ceremonial rites. After Han Shizhong passed away in 1151, Liang Hongyu's remains were reinterred at Lingyan Hill in Suzhou, so that she could rest forever beside her husband and faithful battlefield companion. Liang Hongyu is one of the few female warriors in Chinese history whose existence is verified through official historical texts. Unlike legendary figures such as Hua Mulan, the name Hongyu Red Jade was in fact a name added in later novels and scripts to honor her radiance and preciousness, while historical records refer to her only as Lady Liang. She is counted among the 4 great female heroes of ancient China, alongside Mu Guiying, Hua Mulan, and Fan Lihua. In the art of Peking opera, the production Liang Hongyu beats the drums to repel the Jin army, in which the celebrated performer Mei Lanfang played the lead role, has become a classic work spreading a powerful spirit of patriotism and female empowerment across generations. In the famous work about Yue Fei, Chapter 17 contains a poem describing the scene of her commanding at the Liang Pass. Upon hearing that her husband and children are in peril, cannons, thunder, and roar. Liang is lost. How lamentable that heaven's will once again favors the Jin state. Though a husband may possess hands that can turn the cosmos, it is all in vain if his body is sent to die upon the battlefield. Here, she is also described as a heroine among women, who, when confronting Wu Zhu, cried out boldly, "I am the great marshal's wife of the Son of Heaven of the Great Song." Titled Commander of the 5 Armies, Liang Hongyu, ill-fated lives at Jingkou. Guests come and go, all are soldiers. This lyric portrays Liang Hongyu's turbulent origins inextricably linked with a military environment and constant farewells. It was precisely these circumstances that forged her courage and will, transforming personal misfortune into the foundation of her fighting spirit. Though inferior to Mulan in heroic valor, military strategy is her root. She dares to offer this woman's body dying on the battlefield. What is there to lament? This lyric clearly expresses her self-awareness and noble spirit of sacrifice. Although she humbly acknowledges she cannot match Mulan, she still affirms her own worth through military talent and readiness to lay down her life, transcending gender norms to become a heroic symbol. The Jin invaders encroach upon the magnificent rivers and mountains, causing unending calamity. If General Fei were still at Dragon City, he would never let the barbarian horses trample the central plains. This is a declaration of inspiration and affirmation of resolve. By invoking ancient illusions, it elevates the spirit of resistance against foreign invasion and places upon the shoulders of those who march to war the responsibility to protect the nation, expressing heroism and faith in victory. Many later scholars and poets wrote poetry to commemorate her. Notably, the poem Liang Hongyu by the poetess Qian Shusheng of the Qing dynasty in the collection Gui Shi Yin stands out. There are also verses passed down orally about the event of her beating the drums atop Jinshan Mountain. The drum beats resounded and shook the very sky, causing the morale of the Song troops to soar, while the Jin forces were struck with terror. Literary works frequently emphasize the contrast between her humble origins and her great achievements. The image of her standing on a warship more than 10 meters high, using flag signals and drumbeats to direct troops, has become a cultural touchstone known as Liang Hongyu beats the drums to repel the Jin army. Some documents also record a folk saying from Huai'an about her. With only 30,000 soldiers, even the Jin army dared not challenge her words meant to honor the period she and her husband defended the region. The recreation of Liang Hongyu's life through artistic works is not merely for entertainment, but also carries profound political and social messages. Mei Lanfeng's opera debuted in 1933 at a time when China was facing the invasion of the Japanese military. The work not only honored history but also served as a spiritual call for national solidarity and the will to resist foreign aggression, borrowing images from the past to inspire the present. Cantonese opera works typically emphasize the emotional dimension and the harmonious partnership between her and Han Shizhong. These works portray Liang Hongyu as an ideal model, simultaneously a courageous female warrior on the battlefield and a virtuous wife willing to sacrifice personal interests for the great cause of the nation. These works frequently center on the philosophy that heroes need not be questioned about their origins. The journey from the status of slave or courtesan marginalized from society to that of a military commander holding the fate of the nation is a powerful affirmation of female empowerment and the ability to transcend adversity and fate. The enduring appeal of Liang Hongyu lies not only in her combat skills, but also in her ability to break social barriers. In the extreme Confucian society of the Song Dynasty, where women's status had been considerably curtailed since the fall of the Tang Dynasty, the fact that a woman of commoner origin could rise to the position of deputy military commander was an unprecedented phenomenon. She did not rely merely on her husband's protection, but proved her capabilities through direct participation in strategic decision-making. The fact that she received a separate salary and an independent title is evidence that the male-dominated power structure recognized her genuine talent. Moreover, her integrity in willingly impeaching her own husband established a high ethical standard for the scholars and generals of her era. The image of Liang Hongyu beating her drums continues to this day to inspire research into the role of women in military history. Modern scholars regard her as an early example of female empowerment, where professional competence and dedication to the nation erased prejudices about gender and social background. Monuments such as her temple in Chuzhou and the statues at the Shanghai Museum of Martial Arts are not only memorials to an individual, but also symbols of the indomitable will of a people in the darkest hours of their history. Liang Hongyu was not merely a female general who beat war drums. She was the embodiment of the resilience, wisdom, and loyalty of the Chinese people during the Southern Song period. From the martial arts skills learned from her military father, to the political acuity displayed during the Miao coup, and finally to the tactical genius at Huangtian Dang, she proved that the strength of an individual is not limited by the circumstances of birth or the prejudices of society. Her life ending in a heroic sacrifice left to posterity not only a tale of a hero, but also profound lessons about governance, military ethics, and the spirit of sharing hardship with the people. To this day, the sound of her drums atop Jinshan Mountain still resonates as a reminder of the power of the human will in the face of destiny's harshest trials.